Hey guys, what is going on? This is Wrestlelamia back with another episode. Hell in a Cell is just a week away, which means it's time to start building to the WWE's next pay-per-view. However, did Smackdown deliver the goods or drop the ball? Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at the 11th June edition of Smackdown, as well as the wildest wrestling news and rumors you need to know, including does WWE want to tone down Karrion Kross, Samoa Joe and NXT, news on the return of Edge, and more. As always, Wrestlelamia won't recap the show, but provide you with the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. The good. Dominic is dead. Did Roman Reigns just kill Dominic Mysterio? Fans have to be asking whether we've seen the last of Rey's son after the hellacious beating dealt to him by the Universal Champion. Rey Mysterio's quest for revenge after Roman's assault on the Mysterios last week led to a showdown that was anything but predictable. Rey challenged Reigns to a match, but who would have thought that Dominic would show up and get powerbombed into oblivion? The spectacular spot likely utilized a crash pad, but it wasn't painfully obvious like AEW's Blood and Guts match, where Chris Jericho took a tumble off the cage through crash pads that you could spot a mile away. Roman's gonna Roman. Smackdown featured another great Roman Reigns-centric episode with the Tribal Chief doing what he does best, getting into people's heads and kicking ass. The Universal Champion is much more than a monster heel. He's a cold, calculating mastermind who knows how to push buttons and throw just the right amount of fuel onto a fire to watch things burn. Roman Reigns' character has become one of the greatest heels in the last 2 decades as he takes the badassery of someone like Brock Lesnar and combines it with the head games of wrestling psychopaths such as Randy Orton and CM Punk. Tonight's performance with his cousin the Usos and his subsequent beatdown on Dominic Mysterio served as a reminder of why the blue brand is Destination TV. Cesaro's comeback. Cesaro couldn't have staged a bigger comeback or made a bigger statement when he crashed Bayley's talk show and laid out Seth Rollins. The Swiss Superman has been through the ringer lately, whether it's his title match with Roman Reigns or Seth Rollins' repeated attacks on him. Cesaro proved tonight that Seth Rollins will wish he'd walked away after Cesaro beat him at WrestleMania 37. Cesaro is now the one saying, "It isn't over until I say it's over," a sentiment likely to have Rollins running for his life over the next few months. Liv Morgan's magnificent moment. Congratulations to Liv Morgan, who defeated Carmella in what Wrestlelamia can only hope is the start of a singles push for the woman who went from teaming with Ruby Riott to splitting, reuniting, and watching Ruby jettisoned from WWE. Morgan hasn't had much time to work as a singles star, but she has potential and seems to be working on improving her work in the ring. No one should hold their breath waiting for a push, but fans can always dream. Rey vs. Roman should be great. WWE continues to find outstanding opponents for Roman Reigns, as seen by his new program with Rey Mysterio. The WWE is booking this well, not only with Papa Rey looking for revenge on Reigns for beating down Dominic, but with Rey stating he knows the odds are stacked against him. Rey is wrestling's ultimate underdog, and his world title reigns should serve as a reminder not to underestimate him. While the WWE has nothing to gain by having Mysterio defeat Roman, their match should be outstanding, as Rey can bump like crazy and work just enough hope spots to keep fans thinking maybe, just maybe, Mysterio will do the impossible. Reigns should look even more terrifying as he destroys Rey, while Mysterio will get even more respect as a wrestler who refuses to quit. The bad. Lazy laughter. Tonight's interview segment with Bayley and Seth Rollins had a lot of potential, as both Bayley and Rollins excel on the microphone. Unfortunately, both superstars' interview was full of over-the-top laughing that, well, designed to irritate the fans, made Bayley and Rollins look like they were trying too hard at times. On one hand, it was lazy booking, but at the same time, it was spot on for the lunatic Rollins to roll around on the floor laughing like a hyena. This segment likely wouldn't have been labeled bad, but the WWE went a bit too far with it, showing the usual lack of restraint when it comes to knowing when to end things on a high note. Otis's creep-tastic look. A year after destroying Otis's lovable character and subsequent push, the WWE has actually found a way to rebuild the big guy into a raging monster, with Chad Gable subtly transforming Otis into his strongman lackey. That being said, Wrestlelamia isn't sure what to make of Otis's new look. Otis without a beard is downright creepy, and while Otis has always been a bit creepy, babyface or heel, it's uncertain whether it's going to help or hurt his new act. The Downright Ugly. Next to nothing to criticize about tonight's show, as it featured the usual healthy dose of Roman Reigns, but also plenty of undercard excitement to keep fans watching the show from start to finish. Unlike Raw, the Blue brand has found a way to feature most of its roster in interviews, backstage segments, and of course, matches. Every week, fans get a chance to watch exciting matches while also watching storylines play out. The WWE Universe may not always like every storyline, but it's clear that the Blue brand has a vision for the show and some long-term plans. News. Does WWE want to tone down Karrion Kross on main roster? Wrestlelamia has heard some rumors about the WWE wanting to bring up some NXT superstars to the main roster, including current NXT champion Karrion Kross, who has had a rocket strapped to his back since his 6th May 2020 debut on the Black and Gold brand. Rumor has it that Kross could lose his NXT championship at NXT TakeOver In Your House when he defends the belt in a fatal 5-way, opening the door for a jump to Raw or Smackdown. However, if this happens, Dave Meltzer thinks it's possible the WWE will tone down Kross's in-ring style. Meltzer discussed the situation on Wrestling Observer Radio, noting, "The thing with Kross that nobody talks about is it's won in NXT, but when he gets to the main roster and he does those Saito suplexes, I got a feeling they'll tell him not to, and that's the only thing he does that's impressive. Maybe they'll tell him, and I could just see them going, hey, tone it down on that move, because that's a high-angle move." A change in his moveset might be the least of Kross's problems once he hits the main roster, as fans are all too aware of the WWE's failure to properly utilize top NXT stars. As far as Kross goes, there's talk of a WWE superstar returning to NXT who could prove to be a great opponent. Released wrestler returning to NXT? An interesting story is circulating regarding released wrestler Samoa Joe. When it comes to Joe, fans are constantly hearing stories of superstars returning to the WWE, whether it's a return to the main roster or NXT. Joe was doing a superb job on color commentary on Raw when WWE decided to release him, and according to Fightful's Sean Ross Sapp, the WWE is open to a variety of roles for the Samoan submission machine. While every story should be taken skeptically, Fightful Select has some evidence Joe could be returning. Update. In an update on this story, officials in NXT have confirmed that Samoa Joe was briefly at the WWE Performance Center this week. We were not told why he was there. We did get confirmation there have been pitches within NXT to use Samoa Joe, however. Samoa Joe has a lot to offer, and while it remains unclear whether he is cleared to wrestle, he could be an excellent coach, color commentator, or even a manager. WWE's plans for Edge at SummerSlam. What's next for WWE Hall of Famer Edge following his loss to Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 37? As noted in a previous news video, there's talk of Edge returning for the July 16th Smackdown, which is the first show with fans present, as well as at SummerSlam. Florida sports reporter John Alba recently tweeted, "Reported on the LTG podcast Patreon this week, Edge is currently penciled in for the SummerSlam card as a babyface on the Smackdown side. Seems to give credence to that. X-Pac names NXT opponent he'd like to wrestle." Last but not least, two-time WWE Hall of Famer X-Pac has been retired for some time, but like many retired wrestlers, the itch to return to the ring is often hard not to scratch. During a chat with Cultaholic, he talked about stepping out of retirement for one more match. "I can't pick one specific person, but out of these guys that are great, that are coming up like Santos Escobar, he's a star. El Hijo del Fantasma was a star before he came to WWE, right? He made a name for himself. Now he's standing there and he's doing it in WWE, and if I could be in a match with him and ends up being my last match, that would be great. Or someone like that. Not the main event guy that's, it's gonna be with Randy Orton or this guy. I'd rather it be with somebody that would help boost them. It's not gonna help Randy Orton to have my last match with me." X-Pac is 48 and it's unknown how much time he would need to get in in-ring shape. X-Pac has the right attitude about working one last match, the idea of helping to put a young talent over while giving fans a healthy dose of nostalgia. Would you want to see X-Pac wrestle one last match? Let us know in the comments below. Well guys, there you have it, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly from the 4th June Smackdown, along with the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know in wrestling. Be sure to leave your comment, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll see you next time for some more wrestling content.